Most people know the fairy tale of Sleeping Beauty, who was bewitched to sleep for 100 years, preserved in perfect condition until awakened by true love's kiss. In September 1969, near the village of Rajavchik in the Tusulski district, a miner named Alexander Karnaukov reportedly discovered a marble sarcophagus about 2 meters deep within a 20-meter thick coal seam, at a depth of roughly 70 meters underground. The stone coffin was brought to the surface, and the other coal miners gathered to see what had been unearthed. The miners tried to lift and open the sarcophagus to see what was inside, but every attempt to break the seal with sledgehammers proved futile. The material of the coffin was extraordinarily strong. The miners nearly gave up until they noticed that under the sun's rays, the substance sealing the lid began to soften and melt, dripping a putty-like liquid onto the ground. Finally, the lid could be removed. Inside, the sarcophagus was filled to the brim with a translucent pinkish-blue liquid. This already astonished the miners, but they were even more shocked to see that immersed in the liquid was the perfectly preserved body of a strikingly beautiful woman, appearing to be about 30 years old, with large blue eyes that remained eerily open. Her long, thick, light brown hair with a reddish tint fell to her waist, lightly covering her soft, pale hands, which were positioned along her sides. She was dressed in a white, semi-transparent knee-length gown with short sleeves embroidered with multicolored floral designs. The miners later said she looked like she was sleeping, like she might open those blue eyes at any moment. The preservation was so perfect, so complete, that it challenged everything they understood about death and decay. At the head of the coffin, nestled beside the woman's perfectly preserved form, lay a black rectangular metal box. It measured approximately 25 by 10 centimeters, rounded at one end. Its surface was smooth, unmarked by any writing or symbols the miners could recognize. News of the remarkable discovery quickly spread through the village, drawing the curiosity of residents and officials alike. By midday, a brick-red helicopter touched down nearby, carrying a team of officials in plain clothes. Acting promptly, they secured the perimeter and asked the gathered crowd to move to a safe distance. Soon after, Soviet officers arrived to take charge of the site, carefully recording the names of all who had been present during the find. The officers' first priority was removing the sarcophagus, but they immediately encountered a problem. The marble coffin, filled with its mysterious liquid and precious cargo, was far too heavy for their helicopter to lift. To reduce the load, they released the fluid surrounding the body. As the fluid drained from the sarcophagus, the woman's body began to change before their eyes. Her perfect skin started to darken, turning black as decay that had been held at bay for eons suddenly accelerated. The preservation that had seemed miraculous was entirely dependent on the mysterious liquid. Acting quickly, the team restored the liquid, and the body's condition stabilized once more. Panicking, the officers quickly refilled the sarcophagus with the drained fluid. Realizing they couldn't separate the woman from her preserving fluid, the officers called for a larger helicopter capable of lifting the entire sarcophagus. While they waited, they carefully collected every drop of the mysterious liquid that had spilled, sealing it in plastic containers. They gathered the remnants of the putty-like sealing material, bagging every fragment for analysis. When the heavy-lift helicopter arrived, the sarcophagus was loaded with extreme care. The woman who had slept peacefully in her marble tomb for millions of years was finally disturbed from her rest, carried away to an unknown destination. The helicopter disappeared into the Siberian sky, bound for Novosibirsk, taking with it one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries in human history. But just when it seemed the discovery had vanished into secrecy, an unexpected visitor arrived with revelations that defied every law of history and science. Don't forget to hit the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps me out, and I promise to bring you more awesome content. A few days after the discovery, an elderly professor from Novosibirsk arrived in Rajavchik to deliver a talk at the village club, sharing what he described as the first laboratory findings related to the Tusul princess. His visit became a topic of great interest, as it was unusual for such information to be discussed publicly. This unexpected openness has since become one of the most debated details in the story, raising questions about why the event was addressed so openly, if it was meant to remain confidential. During his presentation, the professor reportedly stated that the discovery could redefine humanity's view of ancient history. He explained that his talk was merely a brief introduction, and assured the audience that Soviet researchers would soon release comprehensive results that would inspire the scientific world. Yet, In the years that followed, no official publications appeared, leaving many to wonder whether his information had been preliminary or misunderstood. But the preliminary findings he shared that night were staggering. According to the laboratory analysis, the grave was at least 800 million years old, placing it within the Carboniferous period of the Paleozoic era, an age long preceding the rise of dinosaurs. If accurate, this timeline would have represented an extraordinary chapter in the study of early life on Earth. If the professor's claims were accurate, this discovery didn't just challenge human history, it obliterated it. Darwin's theory of evolution, the foundation of modern biology, would be completely wrong. Furthermore, he shared that early genetic examinations suggested a remarkable similarity between the woman's DNA and that of modern humans. He proposed that the original wooden crypt might have once rested within a dense ancient forest, which over immense spans of time became buried, sealed away from oxygen, and eventually transformed into a continuous coal seam, preserving the mysterious sarcophagus within. The professor's visit was brief, and he departed as mysteriously as he had arrived. The promised full disclosure of results never materialized. The Soviet scientific establishment fell silent on the matter of the Tissel princess, as if she had never existed at all. Soon after the professor's revelations, the village that uncovered the Tissel princess was cut off from the world, and those who knew the truth began to disappear. Military and police forces encircled the village, establishing checkpoints and restricting movement. Residents were ordered to remain in their homes without explanation. The official reason for this lockdown was never provided, leaving villagers to speculate about what threat could justify such measures in their remote corner of Siberia. Some villagers defied these orders, attempting to leave the restricted zone or to speak with outsiders about what they had witnessed. The authorities' response was swift and harsh. Those who violated the restrictions faced immediate arrest and detention. One particularly outspoken individual decided to pursue legal recourse, believing that Soviet law would protect his right to speak about what he had seen. This naive faith in the legal system proved to have undesirable results. Within weeks of filing his complaint, a healthy man in his 40s, with no history of cardiac problems, dropped dead. The timing of the incident was suspicious, but in the Soviet system, suspicious departures of inconvenient people were not unusual. Alexander Karnikov, the miner who had first discovered the sarcophagus, was among the victims. The elimination of witnesses served multiple purposes. It removed people who could provide first-hand testimony about the discovery. It sent a clear message to anyone else who might be tempted to speak about what they had seen or heard. But the Soviet authorities weren't content with simply silencing the witnesses to the original discovery. They had reason to believe that the Tissel princess wasn't an isolated find, that there might be other burials in the area that could provide additional evidence of this impossible ancient civilization. From the summer through late autumn of 1973, 4 years after the discovery of the Tissel princess, Soviet authorities reportedly launched a large-scale archaeological operation near Lake Berchikul, just 6 kilometers from the original site. The location's proximity suggested that if one ancient burial existed, others might be hidden nearby. The operation unfolded under strict secrecy. The entire area around the lake was sealed off by soldiers and police, with no public statements or media reports. Yet in small Siberian communities, such activities rarely go unnoticed. Residents observed daily helicopter flights, guarded convoys, and restricted access to familiar areas, sparking widespread curiosity. According to local accounts, a breakthrough came when a laborer, speaking incautiously at a village gathering, mentioned that teams had uncovered what appeared to be a Stone Age cemetery on the islands within Lake Berchikul. If true, this suggested that the Tissel princess was not an isolated case, but part of a much larger and older culture. Villagers claimed that helicopters made repeated trips carrying excavated materials, and the terrain around the lake showed signs of intense activity. After months of work, hundreds of graves were said to have been examined, their contents removed, and the sites carefully restored to conceal any trace of disturbance. The operation appeared methodical. Each burial was opened, catalogued, and then reinterred. By late autumn, the landscape around Lake Berchikul looked unchanged, yet beneath its surface, the remains of an ancient population may have rested once more. Reports indicated that participating workers were reassigned to distant regions, and discussion of the project quietly faded. Whether viewed as legend or lost history, the 1973 Lake Berchikul operation remains one of the most mysterious chapters connected to the story of the Tissel princess. In 2002, more than 30 years after the original discovery, an article appeared in Russia's Khakassia newspaper with the provocative title, "The Lady Who is 800 Million Years Old." The article was later picked up and republished by the Archive newspaper, thereby increasing its circulation among readers interested in archaeological mysteries and suppressed history. Some researchers suggest it may have drawn creative influence from familiar folklore such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Nevertheless, many continue to defend the account's authenticity, keeping the discussion very much alive. The article also referenced a Russian-language documentary that had been produced in 2014, based on the same information provided by the KGB colonel. This documentary had briefly appeared on YouTube before being removed, suggesting that even in post-Soviet Russia, there were still powerful interests committed to keeping this information suppressed. Historical context adds another layer of intrigue. During the Soviet era, information surrounding unusual discoveries was often tightly controlled, leaving many stories from that time shrouded in uncertainty. As a result, first-hand accounts about the Tissel find remain scarce, allowing speculation to fill the gaps. Over the years, a range of interpretations has emerged. Some believe the Tissel princess may have belonged to a long-lost civilization whose knowledge and technology have since disappeared. Others take a more speculative view, proposing that her preservation hints at origins far beyond Earth. Supporters of this idea often refer to her strikingly lifelike appearance, the condition of her body, and the mysterious pink liquid surrounding her, describing these as features that defy conventional understanding. Whether rooted in history, legend, or imagination, the story of the Tissel princess continues to inspire fascination, prompting ongoing debate about the boundaries of science, archaeology, and myth. The discovery soon inspired an outpouring of curiosity and speculation as researchers and locals alike sought to understand who or what this extraordinary woman might have been. Early interpretations suggested she could belong to an unknown race, possibly of non-human origin. Even today, some continue to hold this view, as her remarkably preserved body seemed to raise far more questions than it answered. One of the most striking mysteries was her clothing. The material of the princess's dress could not be matched to any known textile. Experts noted that the fabric displayed properties far beyond the capabilities of current technology, resistant to decay, delicate in appearance, yet astonishingly durable. Equally puzzling was the pinkish preservation liquid in which her body rested. Its precise composition remained largely unidentified, though traces of ancient plant compounds, including varieties of onion and garlic, were detected. How this fluid managed to preserve the body so perfectly remains unexplained. Adding to the intrigue, some interpretations propose that the find might not represent a human body at all, but rather a bio-robotic construct, an artificial likeness created by an advanced civilization. According to this theory, the being was placed in the tomb deliberately, intended to carry knowledge across ages. Supporters even speculated that the metallic device discovered near the sarcophagus might have served as a means of communication or data storage. Regardless of interpretation, many agreed on one point: the woman, or the entity she represented, appeared to embody a culture far more advanced than any previously known to human history. Many researchers and skeptics have described the account of the Tissel princess as an exaggerated local legend rather than a historical event. They point out several inconsistencies that appear to challenge the story's authenticity. For instance, while it is true that a coal mine once operated near the village of Berchikul during the 1960s, and that the individuals named in the story did work there, these details alone, they argue, do not confirm the rest of the narrative. One of the most debated points concerns the age of the discovery. The claim that the burial was 800 million years old conflicts with geological evidence, as no known coal deposits on Earth date back that far. The oldest identified seams were formed during the Devonian period, roughly 350 million years ago, making the alleged timeline scientifically implausible. Critics also dispute reports of mysterious accidents linked to the discovery, stating that available records show only natural causes of death. For example, Tatyana Pavlovna Karnakhova, the wife of miner Karnakhov mentioned in the legend, confirmed that her husband had indeed worked in a quarry, but passed away from illness years later, without any unusual circumstances. Additional inconsistencies appear in the story's timeline. In 1969, large-scale blasting reportedly could not have taken place, as the site functioned only as an open pit, with no active deep mining operations for decades. Likewise, claims about genetic testing were likely inaccurate, as the field of genetics was still in its early stages in the late 1960s, making such analysis improbable. These points form the foundation of the skeptical interpretation, logical, evidence-based, and consistent with known history. Still, the story continues to spark debate, leaving room for open discussion and further exploration of what might have inspired one of Siberia's most enduring legends. The discovery of the Tissel princess, was not an isolated event. Reports of similar findings have surfaced across different regions and time periods. In 1974, a comparable case was recorded in Dagestan, followed by another in the Kazakh SSR in 1976, and yet another between the towns of Mahilio and Volkovysk in 1978. These accounts suggest that sophisticated preservation practices may have been more widespread in ancient cultures than once believed. Perhaps the most well-documented example of such preservation comes from China. In 1971, archaeologists in Hunan province uncovered the remarkably preserved body of Xin Zhui, a noblewoman of the Han dynasty, entombed for over 2,000 years. Her remains were discovered within 4 nested coffins, sealed beneath layers of coal and clay. Much like the Tisul princess, Xin Zhui's body had been submerged in a yellow preservative liquid, and when the tomb was opened, this fluid began to evaporate rapidly, astonishing researchers with its effectiveness. Her case remains one of the most extraordinary examples of natural and chemical preservation ever documented. 2 decades later, another striking discovery emerged from the Yukok Plateau in the Altai Mountains. In 1993, archaeologists uncovered the Siberian Ice Maiden, often referred to as the Princess of Yukok. Dating back to around 500 to 400 BC, she is believed to have been a young shaman whose body was preserved in permafrost. Thanks to the frozen environment, her skin, garments, and burial artifacts were found in exceptional condition. Although the thawing process initially threatened her preservation, careful efforts by archaeologists ensured that much of this remarkable find was saved for study. Taken together, these discoveries highlight that advanced preservation techniques and elaborate burials were not rare occurrences, but significant cultural practices reserved for individuals of high status in several ancient civilizations. More than 50 years have passed since the alleged discovery of the Tisul princess in a Siberian coal mine, yet the mystery endures. As time has moved on, witnesses have vanished, evidence has disappeared, and official records remain sealed, leaving only questions about what may have taken place in September 1969. At the heart of the story lies a series of profound mysteries. Who was this woman, said to be preserved beyond the limits of biology and chemistry? If the dating was accurate, she would have lived hundreds of millions of years before modern humans appeared. Such claims, if true, would challenge our entire understanding of evolution, technology, and human history. Accounts describe a pink-blue preservation liquid, capable of halting decay for unimaginable spans of time, and fabrics that resisted deterioration while retaining their color and structure. A mysterious metal box found near her head reportedly defied explanation, sparking theories that it served as a device of communication or record-keeping. None of these claims has been substantiated, yet they remain central to the legend. The Soviet government's reported secrecy following the event only deepened public curiosity. Some believe the site was secured because of its scientific value. Others view it as part of a broader effort to control information about discoveries that might alter accepted historical narratives. Over the years, theories have ranged from suppressed archaeology to ancient civilizations lost to time. Despite decades of speculation, no verified documentation or physical evidence has ever surfaced. The Tisul princess continues to occupy a space between folklore and forgotten history, a story that invites both skepticism and wonder. Perhaps the real significance of the legend lies not in whether it happened exactly as told, but in what it represents: humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown and our instinct to keep searching for truths buried deep within the past. The mystery of the Tisul princess remains an open question, a reminder that history still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.